Oh, where's my camera again? Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hey, can you see me? Is my camera working? I don't think it
No, it's
is. Yeah, I don't think it's
no.
working. Stupid camera.
Is this your laptop again?
Yeah, it's my laptop. I loaned it out to my sons, and
Uh-oh. There's your issue.
yeah, I know. And so now I got to go back and change all of my settings,
Uh,
and that should have fixed it. Anyway, I'll figure that out while
yeah.
we're waiting for Cindy to join us.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything from Perla at all, so.
I checked to see she still shows that she is in the class, but I'm not. I've sent invitations to her multiple times, and I'm not getting anything.
Yeah, well, and like
So,
even in our group message, she doesn't even respond to that, so. So, I don't know. Oh well, we can only do what we can do. I don't know if you know your mic's off or not, but it is. Just so you're aware.
up with me. There we go. I'm hitting way too many buttons too fast, and my computer cannot up with me.
Keep up. Gotcha.
Okay. Alrighty. I remember I fixed it last time, and it was a setting that they had done, and I'm just trying to figure out which one of those that they did.
Hmm.
Oh, come on. Nope, that's the group chat. That's the share. I don't want that. Cancel. I thought it was my camera, but it says all of those are on and operational. And control room, you're on, I'm on, and it says that my camera is working there. So let me come down here into the camera. If I can figure out if they actually went into the. I tried to explain to them, they're, Dad, you got to block off your camera. And I'm like, no, guys, you don't have to do that. There we go.
That's funny.
You don't have to do that. All you have to do is you put a piece of tape. I keep sticky notes by me, and that's really all you have to do. Oh, I wonder if I can photo labs. That's all says it's on. Oh, this is so stinking annoying. Anyway.
Oh well, that's okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I can't. Okay. How much? What time is it? Cindy's probably
5:58. She's probably almost
home
there. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully.
Hey, have you looked at next week? We don't have any
No.
meetings for next week.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
We have no meetings for next week.
Hallelujah.
Yep.
Hopefully I can get all my stuff done by Tuesday then.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I've got to try to get, there we go. Nope, and that just took it off even more. It shows me, but it's not showing you.
I see you.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
gotcha.
That's what
I see you now, though.
Setting. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Good. Oh man.
Yep.
I found out there's like 3 different settings on Microsoft that you can go to and mess with, and now you're there. Alrighty.
That's funny.
Just put the tape over it, kids. That's all you've got to do. And it was funny because last week I had a class on Thursday, and it was the same thing. I couldn't get anything to work then, and it was just.
Oh goodness.
And it's like it's not that big of a deal. We keep the laptop closed anyway when we're not using it. And then if you do, I say just here's a sticky. Put the sticky note over it. So. It's not that.
That is funny.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get all my stuff done by, for sure, Wednesday afternoon before I get it shipped in. I might have my son. He might come by to look for my grandson. My wife was watching him, but she had to go run an errand, so he might just step in. Hopefully, she texted him and told him where he's at. So. Okay.
Totally understand.
Is there something else? No, I can't remember. If there's something else, I was just looking over. I don't have anything in my notes. If there's anything, I've just got the class stuff to go over. Yeah, I don't have any other notes.
That's okay.
So, what other class do you have? I've got another business class I'm taking besides this one.
Mine's marketing. That's my next one. My next meeting.
Oh, there she is. Good.
Oh. You're a little dark right now. Okay, I was like, just so you're aware, it doesn't really matter for us, but.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah. Ah, gotcha.
Park callers.
That's okay.
All right, should we go ahead and get started? All right. Does anybody want to have a prayer or do a prayer? I'm running in their desire to pray.
I can. Yeah, okay. I'll do it. I think it's my turn. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so very thankful for this opportunity we have to be here today. We are thankful for this opportunity we have to learn and to grow and to set our lines that we might not cross them, and that we can remind ourselves how important it is to keep the commandments 100% of the time. Please bless us that we might be able to have thy Spirit with us today, that we might be able to learn and grow from the experiences of others and understand where they are coming from, so that we might be able to see we can stray. And we love thee so very much, dear Heavenly Father, and in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for that. Well, my neighbor's dogs are barking, but they're far enough away that we're not hearing them. Okay. All right. So let's just jump right into it. Lance Armstrong. Okay.
Yeah, I knew a little.
Followed it a lot, and it kind of burned me up inside. I mean, I love Lance Armstrong, still like him today. Great accomplishments. everything else. And so I'm going to look at it like a totally different perspective from what you guys are and what the class is. In my stuff I wrote up, I'm just like, hey, still a good guy. What he did was wrong. But I don't agree with the law that, I mean, I basically looked at it like this. I'm just going to give my spill and then you guys can, we'll go ahead and get into it. But the way I looked at it is if you're driving on a road and you think that road should be 35 miles an hour and it's 25 and you continue to drive 35 and you get a ticket, yes, that's against the law. Yes, that's wrong. But your skill, your professional, the circumstances around it, it still is, you know, is it dangerous? Is it putting you in any more danger? Yes, possibility. But, and so that's the way I looked at it. And that's enough said. Okay, so let's, so we talked about just his legacy. What's his legacy now? How do we see Lance Armstrong today? Well, right, he's really just dropped out, and I think that's just, I mean, he's just a dad now with 3 or 4 kids. I think 4 kids he's raising with his wife. He divorced Sheryl Crow, and he's got a new sweet wife, and he's raising his kids and being a dad and doing that. Yes, he was married to Sheryl Crow briefly, I think prior to the cancer, or maybe just right after the cancer, but I think it was prior to the cancer. He was married to Sheryl Crow, and and they broke up and went on about their way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what is Armstrong's legacy? What's his legacy today? No, so but what if someone was to say, "Hey, what do you think about Lance Armstrong?" What would you say?
I think it's been kind of tainted as someone who in the Tour de France, like the 7 times, I didn't know anything about him, right? Because I was in middle school, high school, and so we didn't have TV or newspaper really, so I didn't. So it wasn't until the big scandal hit that I had heard about him, you know, and I had heard like Live Strong, but I still, to be honest, I was thinking when I was younger, I literally thought he and Buzz
Armstrong?
Buzz Armstrong were the same person. So I was like, he walked on the moon, I guess. So that's literally what I knew about him, which is a little embarrassing, but it's fine. Now I know the difference. So my thoughts on him now are, well, he's the guy who used drugs, doped up to like win all those Tour de France's. And that's really all I know about him. I don't even, I mean, like I said, I'm wrong, but the thing that sticks out to me is, oh, he's the guy who used drugs to win 7 races. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think what it did was it also brought it to light. So it was now no longer just their culture and their group of people that were doing it and knew it. It was now the world knew it. And so now everybody knew that everybody was cheating. Everybody was doing some type of, and I don't agree with, I've never agreed with Taking a chemical into your body to enhance performance, I can see where that could be wrong, but the blood doping, I think that's perfectly fine. That should be legal to do. Oh yeah, that's all you're doing is you're taking your blood out of your body, your blood that you have. You're taking it out, you're putting it through a machine that takes the red blood cells and separates it from the plasma and everything else, and then you dump that back into your system. So you're basically giving yourself a transfusion, and your body now has additional red blood cells. Red blood cells carry oxygen, and now you have more oxygen that can go to your muscles to help you go. To me, I look at it not too unlike if you were to have some sort of medical procedure to help, to help you or make you to live better or longer. I mean, they do that. Well, some people do that when they're going to have an operation. They'll take their own blood, store it so they don't get somebody else's blood because they're a fear of AIDS or other type of diseases.
Right. Well, and something that like stuck out to me, like the only reason that doping is wrong is because someone has qualified it as that.
Yeah.
And so the thing I was thinking of, well, what actually makes it wrong? And I mean, there may be harmful, maybe why they do not legalize it, and maybe it's also because it's really expensive, so not everyone can afford it, which really separates the two different types of people, the rich and the people who are just doing it on merit. So that might be why it is illegal. But if it was, and it seems like, yeah, no worries. It seems like everyone is kind of just like trying to, if everyone does it, then it's equal ground. Everyone is doing it, right? So the only reason why it's bad is because it is illegal, and they are willfully trying to find different ways to continue to do it, even though there's a law against it. And I think the biggest reason why that is wrong, because everyone's doing it, right? But it affects more than just the cycling people now. It's more than just like the club of people and like their fans. Their fans don't really even care because everyone's doing it. But it's a group of like cancer patients who were like, this is everything, and is just doing it on his own. But then it turns out that he is breaking the law and he wasn't doing it on his own. And I think that's kind of why it's such a big deal, is because it doesn't just affect him and the cycling community. It affects, like you said, the whole world. And in a lot of ways, it affects a group of people who needs that like build up, and now they don't have that. So that's my thoughts.
I can see that. I mean, I totally agree with you on that, on all of it, that it's illegal because somebody said it was illegal. I don't know. And then, but right. And I can totally, I mean, we see that though all around us today. With the drug culture. I mean, we were talking about it at work today. One of the ladies came in with a humorous story that she was, as she went off site for lunch and came back, there was a homeless person in the median, and they had a little sign up and asked, how they say, we'll work for food or something, but the sign had nothing on it. It was completely blank. There was no writing on it whatsoever, and we're just like, wow, he just found a piece of cardboard and he picked it up, and he was so much out of it that he was hoping. So you get people who are abusing the drugs so bad that now it's harming them physically. Lance, I think, was a little different because he had a doctor that was there that was watching him and could probably say, hey, we're going to push it up to this. We can't really go much further than this because it might not be safe. I mean, I don't know what the doctor was doing, but that's just,
yeah.
So it is. It's right. It's difficult. Oh yeah, I mean that's what I put in mine is so we say we shouldn't use performance enhancement drugs, but yet everybody in my building that I work with can't get started. I can't do anything, can't talk to them until everybody's had at least 2 cups of coffee, dumped into their system. And I have to sit around in my office and check emails and do that type of stuff before I actually go over and say, hey, I need a question to talk to you about this. Say, oh, not yet until my coffee kicks in. Yeah, so performance enhancement drugs, that's coffee. That's one of them.
Yep.
Well, yeah. And Armstrong, I'm sure, did the same thing. I'm sure he spent a lot more than that on the drugs that he was taking. So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
all right. So let's go over just some of the questions that they have. So that's kind of his legacy is kind of in a nutshell is that uh, it's basically he's going to be known through the rest of his life as that guy that cheated and won all those French races, and he did it by taking drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, before I read this, like, I was like, once again, knowing nothing beforehand, I was like, oh, he's the only guy who took drugs to win the Tour de France. When everyone, well, maybe not everyone, but the major players, most of them are taking drugs.
Right.
Are, like, taking enhancements.
You're right.
Which is sad.
Yeah.
But that's how it will be seen.
I mean, it would be great if we lived in a world, but those things are so readily available for everybody that it makes it very difficult to be able to withdraw, not take that temptation. But I mean, it's human nature. So anyway, so they asked some other questions about situations where we might have seen a supervisor or a leader who had made a decision that made you or others uncomfortable. Something similar along the lines of this. Have you where they have a supervisor may have bent the rules or bent the company policy to get something done or to do something, and then have you seen that, and has it ever happened to you? Cindy?
Cynthia, for some reason.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not surprised, Cynthia.
Right. Situations like that. Needless to say, yes.
Hmm.
Okay. That's pretty hard. So, Annie, have you had anything like that happen to you in your long career?
Yeah, right. Not real. Well, I mean, so once again, back to that when I was in drumline, and I had that wasn't even like the leader, but because he kind of abused the situation and acted like he was leader and just like took it out on the people in his same section, it I just did not like how it was. But at the time, I didn't do anything about it. And so that's something that still haunts me to this day. You know, I think one of the questions was like, how did you handle it or whatever? And I didn't really do anything, in part because I was also one of the people being like, you know, terrorized. Not really. But there was one kid who was especially not they were not nice to him, and they one of the reasons he did it was because he was like the best, you know, section, and so in that way he was a leader and he didn't handle that well. So that's the one thing that I think of, and it makes me feel sick even to this day. that he would treat people like that, and that I did not do anything to stop it as well, you know? So, yeah, that's what I think of.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a little, but yeah. Sorry, Gary, what?
No, I was going to say I had an experience where it was a couple of employers ago. I was working. It was me and another guy got hired to start a new department. It was just two of us, and it was really it's something that I had done before in the past, and I was very familiar with it, and I could handle it. It was a lot of work for one person, so you really only needed like one and a half, one for full-time person and a part-time person to kind of fill in on the heavy things. Our manager said, you know, he understood that, but you know, he had got budget for two people, so he was going to do it. About a year into it, the other guy I was working with started to realize that there wasn't a whole lot for him to do, so he started coming in late. When I say late, he started coming in like at 11 o'clock. He would come in at like 11 o'clock and work for an hour, then he'd go for like a 2 or a 4 hour lunch, show back up around 6 o'clock at night, work for a couple of hours, then go home. And everybody knew this. Everybody knew it was happening. I finally had enough of it, and I went to my boss. And unbeknownst to me, my boss and him were good friends outside of work, and he was doing a lot of things for the boss. Had got him into a shooting range that was very exclusive that you couldn't get into unless you were, you had to have people vouch for you, and then not only vouch for you, but they had to be an election. And so he was able to get him in, and a bunch of other different things like that. Got him some deals on some work that this other guy knew, that my coworker knew, got some other different things for him. And so it was one of those things when I went to my boss and said, hey, this isn't cool. And he just he looked at me and said, you're doing the work. Everything's happening. There's no problem. If this guy wants to take off and do that, then it's perfectly fine with me, and you shouldn't worry about it. And I was just like, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't worry about it. But there's time card fraud where he's cheating on his time card. He says he's here for 9 hours a day, and he's really only here for, maybe 6, 5 probably. And, you guys are paying him. And I was kind of just basically told, don't worry about it. If you do need help, you tell him not to take, you tell him to come in on time and help you, or you tell him not to take his long lunch. And you handle it. And I worked that way for probably about 2 years, hated every day of it because of it. And I finally just said, I love what I'm doing, but not so much that it's eating me up inside like this. And so I went and got a different job. I just couldn't take it anymore and left. I know they were a little upset with me because I left them high and dry. I gave them like 2 weeks notice, but then I started my other job a week early. I told them, okay, 2 weeks I'm going to leave. And they're like, oh, okay, well, let's start this. And we started planning, and I started doing stuff. And then my other employer said, could you start Monday instead of next Monday? And I said, yeah, sure thing. And so I left them a week early. But, and it's sad when you know that you're in the right, and you can see, and other people just kind of, and it's not like I would understand if this was money was coming out of my bosses, but he worked for a company, and so it was actually coming out of the shareholders and the stockholders, money. So it would be different if it was coming out of his own personal paycheck and he was doing that. Fine, you can do it. You're the boss, but you weren't. He was just an employee like everybody else. So, but anyway, so that's just some of the situations we've had. One of the things that they wanted us to talk about was what are our basic principles that guide us through integrity, and are there sometimes gray areas that we have? So what are some of the basic things that guide us, but what are those gray areas that that we can see, and how do we handle those gray areas mostly?
I think like in the talk or the less like the article by Clayton Christensen, it talks about like humility is being willing to learn from the people around you, and I think that kind of also includes he. So that's one of the things that I live by. Like, I need to treat all people the same, no matter who they are. So if I would like fire someone that I didn't like for something, I need to also be willing to fire someone I like for that same thing. So I can't, like, especially in work, you can't have favoritism. And I think that's one of my lines. And that's sometimes that can be really hard to not cross that. Like, not people over others, especially if you like being around them or whatever.
Right.
So.
That's exactly.
So. Yeah. And
I'm going through it right now. Our company gives us a half hour. We're only supposed to take like a half hour for lunch, and of course, everybody that I know takes a solid hour for lunch just to get to some place to eat, to grab some food, and to come back. It usually always takes over a half hour, right? But the company turns a blind eye to that. Everybody, and like I said, everybody does it. I'm not just the only one. Everybody, even managers and directors, everybody takes, if they can. What I do though is I usually work through my lunch, meaning I take my lunch at my desk and I will do homework at it. And then for that half hour I'm there, that's my time. And then I also kind of budget because everybody else is now off and they haven't came back from lunch. And so I sit at my desk and I continue to do homework. And it ends up being I get a full hour and maybe hour and 15 minutes a day at my desk working and doing homework. I look at it that okay, it's benefiting me because a lot of it is we have to write and stuff. So my writing skills have improved, my editing skills have improved, and so a lot of that has helped my work. So I'm actually making myself better for the company that I work with. But and I'm at my office. So if someone does call and say, hey, I got a question, or hey, can you do this for me? Can you get me this report or something? I can do that while I'm there, and I'll always put my classwork back or my lunch hour back, and I will ask, fulfill that request for them, then go back to it. So that's kind of like my gray area that I have that I deal with on a daily basis. But I still feel fine. I still feel fine about it. I still, I don't sleep. I don't lose sleep over it. I don't hesitate when I ask, and go through your temple recommend questions or those type of things. I go ahead and do it. So anyway, those are my grades.
Sorry, can I say?
Yeah, usually that's what I do is everybody leaves. I sit there, I eat my lunch, and I do my schoolwork, and then I continue to do my schoolwork until everybody else shows back up from lunch. At that time, finish my schoolwork, put it to an end, whatever I'm doing, and then get back to work on working on stuff. So that's what usually it happens.
Well, and I think we have to be careful that we don't go letter of the law like the Pharisees. You have to pay attention to the Spirit. That's why we have the Spirit, because every situation is different. And so I think that is how we can handle that gray area, is we need to make sure that we always have the Spirit with us. And if we feel okay, like we will be able to keep the Spirit with us, then it is an okay thing to do. Like, let's say we did have someone who needed the rules bent for some reason, but it was a personal reason, like their family member was deathly ill or whatever, and they needed to rush them to the hospital. Like, I think that it is okay to allow them to leave the premises to go get their, loved one to the hospital or whatever. That is, and that's just something personal that I feel like the Spirit puts a person's well-being over something else. And obviously you can't take that to extremes, and you have to make sure that it is the Spirit. But like getting to church on time, my roommates had this discussion. If you are, it's really important to be to church on time, but sometimes the Lord puts you in a place where you are supposed to be late so you can help someone, do something like that. So sometimes there are situations where it is better not to follow the letter of the law, and it just really depends on the Spirit.
Yeah, I kind of looked at this when I read through the questions. It was like, how do you choose this correctly? And I'm like, well, really, the Holy Ghost is what's going to tell us what we need to do if we will listen to the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
So that's what it was kind of funny. Back on when I was working with this guy, I had so many times where I was like, I'm done. I know the guy who does corporate investigations. I'm a friend with him. I could give him a call. I could go sit down in his office. I could turn this guy in for time card fraud. I could turn my boss in for time card fraud. I could do all of this stuff real easy. I could go to ethics and it would just make kind of a big stink with everybody. But every time I got fed up and was angry and was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to look up his phone number. I'm going to give him a call today. It would come over and the Spirit would say, no, don't do that. And it was like, fine, I won't do it. I'll listen to the Spirit on this one, but I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, I understand that.
It would have been really ugly had I done it. Everybody got involved with everybody.
Right.
Okay. So the last question I got with what I thought was kind of funny for BYU Idaho, I was like, seriously, people, where do you put this in here? How will you personally measure your life, and how will you measure your success? And I think that's strictly from the other thing we had to read on how will you measure your life from the Harvard Business Review. It's kind of an easy thing for us, I think, as Latter-day Saints. We know where we need to go, what we need to do, and how we need to get there. So,
have you guys ever seen The Office, like the US version? Have you finished it?
My kids watch it all the time.
Okay, so I just finished it last night. Like, this has been years in the making, so I just finished it last night. Sorry, Watson. Yeah. But this last season was really interesting for me because Jim and Pam, they're like the couple, and they started going through marriage troubles because Jim decided to switch jobs and kind of find a dream of his and make it come true. And the whole series, he's like, I don't want to be someone that just stays at this job because I don't want to be that didn't do anything with my life. I understand his struggle because you want to make sure that you make the most of your life. But when he finally went to that other job, it was like down in Philly and he had to travel all the time, and it really strained his relationship with Pam, and he never saw his children. And so he had to make the decision, and he made the decision to stop working at that company because he realized that his was more important to him. And I actually really appreciated that about the Office, was that they were like, you need to find what is truly going to make you happy and go for that. And that is what is the most important thing. And jobs, having a successful, glorious, glamorous job is not the most important thing in life. And so I liked that world, like a worldly thing, was really focusing on family and how important that was. And it's how truthful it is. Like, even in that setting, it just rang so true to me. So anyways, that's my experience,
So I remember I got a similar situation. So when my older kids were younger, my wife, I had a lot of books that I loved to read, And one of them that she read for my kids at bedtime stories was R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. And there's love The Hobbit, love The Hobbit.
Yes.
So there's a scene in The Hobbit where Samwise is talking to Frodo and kind of talking to himself as well. And he really thinks Samwise thinks that he can take the ring, that he can take it and he can control it. He can wear it and he will become the great master, and he will be the one that can rule all of Middle Earth with the One Ring. And then he realizes that that's not what he wants. That what he really wants is, you know, a pint of ale, a wife, and a nice home. That's what he really wants to have, is that, and that's all he needs to look for. And I've thought about that myself, and I've, you know, sometimes we'll be watching TV and go, man, it'd be great to be the, you know, a quarterback of an NFL team, or it'd be nice to be the president of the United States and have all this power, or a, you know, a Jeff Bezos or somebody like that. It'd be nice to have all this power and get to do all this. And then I realize, no, I don't need that. What I really need is just, you know, roof over my head, my kids happy and healthy, and just the simple things in life is what I really need. So I think that's exactly how we'll basically just follow ourselves is that way. That's how we'll measure our success in our lives, or how well we stand before God at the judgment day. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, can't
Lost
hear
her.
you, Cynthia. Yeah.
We lost her for a second. There you are.
Mhm.
Yep, I hear you.
Dang.
It's too late now, but Cynthia, for other people out there, if your kid, when your kid goes on a mission and you take them up, if you ever take them up to the Salt Lake, we took all of our kids up to Salt Lake and bought clothes for them at Mr. Mac. And just kind of a side note with that, when you're there, your kids are buying all the clothes, they give them a screaming good deal, but the dad can also. No. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry. Just coordinate with my wife on some stuff. But you can get a screaming good deal on a suit coat up there. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Sure.
Alrighty. Okay.
Good question.
So, do we have any other? Did you have any other items that you wanted to bring up for our meeting tonight on Lance Armstrong? Any other comments or views that you had with it? So, okay, so one of the things you can look at real quick, if it's a state law or a federal law, look into it a little bit, Google it a little bit, find out if it's a state law or federal law. If there's I'm sure different ways that you can go to your federal labor board or state labor board and report those type of things. Secondly, you should be protected under what they call a whistleblower act. If that ever does happen, you are protected for that. So, yeah, I mean, that's not 100% true. They say you're protected, but yeah, I had a good friend who was protected under the Whistleblower Act, and they were doing layoffs. He was more senior than anybody that was there and did a better job than everybody was there. But guess who got laid off first? And it was like, well, we're going to lay you off first. But everybody else is going to be laid off too, like 6 months later, and that's exactly what happened. So, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry about that, but like I said, you can still report it. Okay.
No, no.
Nope. Okay, well, let's go ahead and end this meeting tonight. I'm sorry that we can't help you with that one, but okay. Okay. So
Gotcha.
just for kind of housekeeping, there is no meeting next week. There's no group meeting next week due to Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, yay! Not that I don't want to see you guys again, but I like to have
Would rather
my
see family.
exactly. So there's
Oh. Oh, fun.
sweet. Sweet.
Okay.
So so we've got who's going to be the lead for the week after next. Does anybody know? I was going to check the schedule today, but I did not. I can't remember. So just look at that check that Excel spreadsheet that we have.
Yeah.
Just look at that and just and we can. I really like texting. You guys can just text me next week on who's got it. I'm pretty sure it's not me. If it is, I'm sorry, and I'll text you guys and let you know that we're the date, time, and location and stuff. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds great.
All right.
Okay.
I'll post this. I probably won't. I've got another class I've got to go to right now.
Yep.
But I'll try to post this tonight or first thing in the morning. Okay.
Okay.
All righty.
Sounds good.
Bye now. Yep. Bye now.
You guys too. See ya.